Welcome to Dave Knows Ball on this January 20th, 2025 episode. Happy National Championship Day. Happy Inauguration Day. Happy SEC basketball midweek preview, folks. So we're going to be tonight. SEC Unfiltered Zone. Chris Phillips going to be joining us here 14 minutes, probably a little bit to be exact. Our guy CP will be hopping in. He'll be joining us to help preview the midweek action from the SEC. On the hardwood, we'll talk my SEC basketball power rankings today. Been on about 2 shows explaining some of those. I got to come on, as we do on most Monday shows. I'm going to come on and explain the power rankings from this week on this January 20th SEC basketball power rankings. We'll talk about that. And then I'll go in. And if you were listening to the Texas Sports Unfiltered show on Friday, again, love our Texas listeners. They do a phenomenal job being out there with us all the time. So I appreciate them. And over there with the guys over at BK, they do a phenomenal job. I appreciate those guys. But they heard me. We did a little segment on the show the other day, the most memorable national championship games in your lifetime. So remember, that's not anybody. That's different for everybody. It's subjective. Memorable, not best. Key there, guys. Memorable in this specific person's lifetime. So this could vary from all over the place. Chris's, I want to hear his. I'm going to give mine probably right before he gets on. But we do, guys, we do. Before we get started, we do have a national championship game tonight. And if you're going to bet it, there is no one better. And tonight's show is actually brought to you. Let me get it up there real fast. It's actually brought to you by our buddies Game Time app and our new title sponsor, FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Again, our title sponsor, FanDuel, just paired up with those guys. We are jacked about it. A lot of fun trips coming up with the basketball season, Nashville SEC tournament, potentially a Vegas trip first round, all by our buddies FanDuel, man. We love these guys. They do a phenomenal job. If you want to bet, make any wagers tonight. If you want to go bet, if you're feeling Ohio State big tonight, folks, if you're feeling the Buckeyes big, you think they're going to cover that 8.5? Go to our buddies over at FanDuel. If you think the Irish are going to play good defense with my boy Al Golden again tonight, my former boss at Miami, now DC with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. If you think they're going to hold strong, maybe Will Howard resorts back to Michigan, Will Howard a little bit. You think the Irish are going to pull it out? Maybe go sprinkle that little money line on the Irish there. Or I don't know, maybe take the 8.5. It's a lot. Or maybe you're an over-under guy or gal, 45. We'll see. But go do it with our buddies over at FanDuel. Remember, guys, visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Again, fired up for them to be our title sponsor over here with us at the SEC Unfiltered channel. But before we get right into it around the SEC, my top 5 most memorable games, guys, again, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell on the YouTube channel for us, guys. The road to 20,000, trying to get it today. Still time. We've got plenty of hours in this day. Go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then go give us a listen wherever you get your podcast at, guys. We encourage you there. But again, we appreciate you guys joining us, and we have a phenomenal episode today on Dave Knows Ball to rein us in to the final 4 quarters of the college football season. I know it's not an SEC. I know the SEC is not in it 2 years in a row. The SEC has not been in it after Michigan and Washington's game, and then obviously Notre Dame, Ohio State tonight. But again, it's football. We love football here. It's all things, but we're going to be real heavy SEC basketball tonight. But if you want my opinion, I'm going to take Notre Dame. I'm going to go to FanDuel, and I'm going to take Ohio State. I'm going to go take Ohio State over Notre Dame minus 8.5. I already put it in with my buddies over there at FanDuel. So that's my prediction. I'm not going to go in depth or, breaking it down, setting the tone, where it'll be won, where it'll be lost like we go. I just think the way Ohio State's playing, they have the best personnel across the board. And hopefully my bet, I put it preseason. Tell me what you think in the comments, folks. I put my preseason bet. You'd be proud of me. If Ohio State can finish the drill, I took before the season Ohio State, Georgia to win it all. Either one of those teams against the field. I was a little nervous midseason. I was a little nervous. But I thought those 2 teams had the best roster across the board. Maybe I was a little wrong on Georgia from talking to some people over there. They didn't even think they were the most talented. But I think by far it's pretty unanimous across the sport. I'm sure all 200 of you live listening right now would agree. Ohio State is the best roster when playing their best. The way they've been playing in the postseason. If they continue to play that well, I think they're going to win tonight. Just think the Jim Knowles defense. We'll talk about Jim Knowles potentially at Oklahoma here coming up. But I think the Jim Knowles defense is going to be too explosive on the outside to just totally limit them. I think they changed that run game since the Michigan game. They called it, you heard me mention it, they were a little arrogant in their play calling. Chip Kelly and Ryan Dave essentially admitted that. They kind of really truly mirrored and married up their two systems, and it looks good now. So I think unless Ohio State has some deep red zone turnovers, I think Ohio State's going to win the game. Now, I may like Notre Dame first half, but overall, I like Ohio State to cover, and I've already put it in with our buddies over there at FanDuel. So getting right into it, let's go around the SEC, folks. Around the SEC, I've mentioned it, Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. Could this be his last game as the defensive coordinator for the Buckeyes? He's done a phenomenal job over the last 2 years. Came over from Oklahoma State, one of the more respected defensive minds in the country. Rumored to be heading to Norman and joining Brent Venables' staff. 2 new coordinators. They already hired Ben Arbuckle, the Washington State offensive coordinator, who they already hired before the new year. He'll be there. Brought John Mateer with him. Bringing in Jim Knowles, that'd be calling your shot. And I'll say it here. That gives me confidence maybe a little bit. Brent Venables will be around 2 more years. We have very loyal Oklahoma listeners. I would love to hear their thoughts in the comments. Bring it in. Does that, if it is Jim Knowles, because why would Jim Knowles leave that situation in Columbus to go to Norman maybe on a 1-year deal if he's not promised? Now, again, these guys are promised certain deals. I mean, Jimmy Sexton, the CAA agency of the world around. I mean, they'll get their guys phenomenal deals. They do great jobs. They're great at their job. Excuse me, I had to get a sip of water in. They're great at their job. But I don't know why I would leave that. Again, I don't know. That just screams to me a little bit. Maybe they're giving him a 3-year deal saying, hey, if it just looks decent next year with 2 new coordinators, we'll give you another year, Brent, talking to Brent Venables. If I was Joe Castiglione, the Oklahoma AD. Maybe 2 years is a little bit more in the books. Again, I think teams are starting to be a little bit more patient unless it's just they're taking in water from an analogy standpoint on a ship. You know what I mean? I think administrations like Florida with Scott Strickland, how he handled Billy Napier, them. I think unless they're just bleeding out or they're just taking too much water on ship, they're going to hold on and kind of save that buyout money to go pay some players. And hey, let's go see how us elevating the roster, the personnel, maybe it's not the coaching staff. Maybe we do need to go elevate this to a championship roster. If you've been watching myself and Cole Thompson, any of our transfer portal videos, like are a lot more winnable plus type players. If you hear me say that all the time, 50 to 60%, if your roster can be in that winnable plus range, you'll be competing in the playoffs every year to potentially win a national championship. But that's interesting if Jim Knowles is going. He didn't deny it when they asked him at Media Day yesterday. He just said his sole focus was on Notre Dame. That wasn't an exact quote, but essentially cutting it up in short form for you. That's what he said. Feels pretty strong. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I think he'll be the next DC at Oklahoma or Brent Venables. It's a big-time offseason from a coaching perspective for Brent Venables. I think he hired Ben Arbuckle, a young cat, brought in John Mateer. I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now. Maybe I'm too early in saying that. I just like him a lot. And then you bring in Jim Knowles. Done a phenomenal job turning those Buckeyes around the last 2 years, and maybe even bringing a national championship defensive coordinator in if they can finish the drill tonight. So I think it's big time for Brent Venables. They would owe Brent Venables $34.9 million if they were to get rid of him at the end of next year right now. And Knowles makes 1.9. So we'll see how that all shakes up. Texas general manager Brandon Harris, remember that's former LSU quarterback Brandon Harris as well, have agreed to terms on a new contract that will make him one of the nation's highest paid college football front office officials. That GM, the general manager role is what it is. Harris has been a key figure behind the scenes in Texas's run back-to-back college football playoff appearances, 25 wins in the last 2 years. Not even a director of college scouting or probably director of pro scouting would take that, but like maybe an assistant DPP would. It's been in it 3 or 4, has seen some of the salary cap, at least can come in with somewhat of an idea. Because, guys, I'm telling y'all would be surprised how many of these guys, I mean, no one really knows what they're doing here at times. You would be, I think fans would be a little bit surprised here just how laissez-faire it is a little bit out there. And everybody's just kind of doing their own thing until we get the revenue sharing. So that'll be interesting from that perspective. But another big hire but retention for Steve Sarkisian. Because, guys, there's rumors out there that Steve Sarkisian was going to go to the NFL, really test the waters with the Raiders and the Cowboys. And I think he used that as leverage. Not that I think. He's showing us he used it as leverage to go get his staff paid. And I think that's commendable. Texas, they lost a lot. They're going to have to replace it. But you know what? They're heading in the right direction. Not the right direction. They're there. I mean, they're competing for national titles. Let's call it what it is. That's great for the sport, great for the off-the-field position. Those are the roles I used to be in right there. I remember I was in nine years of college football, went to school at Alabama, worked at the football office there, worked at Auburn, Texas A&M, Georgia. So I've been around the block in the SEC. And these are my kind of people here. So I'm glad to see that role starting to get paid a little more. You saw it with Courtney Morgan in Alabama as well. But speaking of Alabama, former Alabama tight end, former Texas Longhorn tight end now, Amari Nyblack, transferring to just about 2 hours up the road to the station, College Station, Texas A&M, adding Texas tight end Amari Nyblack, combined for 3 seasons, 2 years at Alabama in 22 and 23, this past year in 24 with the Longhorns in Austin. 26 receptions career-wise, 375 yards, 14.4 yards per average, 5 touchdowns, and his longest was 39 yards. I mean, I kind of remember him most. I mean, he didn't really do anything this year. Granted, they had Gunnar Helm, who was one of the better tight ends in the sport. Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns did. But his time at Alabama, I remember him more for like the Kentucky catch right up the seam there in Lexington in 2023. I mean, outside of that, didn't really do a whole lot. I think he could have – I think Texas had an interception in 2023 as well where he could have maybe fought for it a little harder. It ended up being an interception. Obviously, the post-game video in his mirror, people gave him a lot of flack for. So just stuff like that hadn't really panned out. Would like to see it a little more. Just I don't know what this is. I mean, I know Texas A&M is a weak spot for them in that tight end spot, but I don't know. Sometimes if you can't make it happen at Alabama, if you can't make it happen at Texas with those resources and how you're held accountable, I mean, those are cut from the same cloth there. The Nick Saban tree, and then Sark was in that. They do the same thing. They're going to give you as many opportunities as possible. You're going to have all the resources to be successful on and off the. If you can't get it done in those two places, then again, Texas A&M has the same resources. I don't know. I just don't see guys at that level like just transfer around and have that much success at their third school. Again, you're no denying the talent. He wouldn't have went to the University of Alabama, guys, if he wasn't talented. He wouldn't have went to the University of Alabama, guys, if he wasn't talented. It's not about that. It's just at some point you got to grade, not the character, just the off the field. How much do they love football? Are you bringing that into their program? Because you know Texas A&M had to pay some money for him. And I'm just not grading this pick. I mean, me and my guy Cole Thompson will grade this pick tomorrow. This one, I think we're probably going to disagree on more so heavily. So if you've been keeping up with our transfer portal grade, how it fits in, remember elite, rare, elite all conference, winnable plus, winnable minus guys. Like, I don't know. I maybe even go not for us, man. Not like third school when you've been at those big of schools and it's not working out. It's a you thing. And I hate being like that, but I'm just calling a spade, guys. But Amari Nyblack, we'll see. He'll be in the Colin Klein system with Marcel Reed and some of those weapons they've added in the outside at wide receiver across the board from that perspective, guys. But let's get right into it to my games real fast. The top 5 most memorable national title games. I mean, what are the top 5 most memorable national title games of my lifetime? Now, I'm aging myself here, folks. I was born in 1989 in Jacksonville, Florida, beautiful Duval County. Everybody knows Duval. It's not where I'm from, not where I went to high school, family moved, but that's where I was born. Top 5 most memorable national title games for your guy, Dave Shoemate, since 1989. And again, this isn't best, folks. So don't be like, hey, that was a boring game. I understand, but most memorable for different reasons. Number 5, Ohio State, Miami, the 2002 season, but the 2003 Fiesta Bowl. Remember the pass interference at the end? It looked like Miami won, was going to win their back-to-back with Ken Dorsey, Larry Coker. And they called it late. Ohio State got a first down. They went and scored and won the football game. I was in about 7th grade there. I remember just watching that with my dad, and like I guess maybe now look at it I'm older now. I think he had like a big bet on the game because I always just remember like he was really into this. And my dad grew up an Alabama fan, so I was like, why was he real invested in the Miami Ohio State game? And he's betting on Miami, or he's really cheering for Miami. And I remember him talking about how he used to not like him. Miami played in the '92 Sugar Bowl, stuff like that, but. No, so thinking back on it, I need to confirm with him. He's actually here. I'm babysitting my son right now. So I need to ask him when I get out of here. That just hit me live on air. So I need to bring that up. But that one, to me, was one of the memorable, one of my younger days remembering it. I got vaguely remember like the 96 Fiesta Bowl in Nebraska and then went and worked Steve Spurrier and them, or the 95 one. I remember some of those, but not as vivid as number 5 here, Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Miami, 03 Fiesta Bowl. Number 4 for me, Alabama, LSU. I was in college here at Alabama. 2011 season, 2012 BCS National Championship game. The game of the century rematch. The game of the century rematch. Do we remember that one? Remember the 21-0 game? I mean, if you're objective observers, a pretty boring national championship game, if you want to be honest. It kind of was. I mean, it was like 15-0, I think, till the very end of the game. Alabama missed an extra point, and then Trent Richardson busted the one out on the edge of the boundary. I was there, so we had great seats. Worked in the athletics department there. Then that was memorable. Not necessarily the greatest game, but it was just Alabama went after losing 9-6 in Tuscaloosa, and the game of the goes to New Orleans in LSU's backyard and essentially does the same thing to them. Again, not at Tiger Stadium. It's different, but like I just remember, you thought LSU fans thought they were going to go, they were getting after us again, and it just didn't. It just didn't happen. And that was Alabama bullied LSU. That was when LSU didn't cross the 50-yard line. That was kind of the game it started the ball downhill for Les Miles, if we want to be honest. Remember Bobby Hebert, T-Bob's dad, got after him in postgame press conference asking why Jarrett Lee never went in, because remember Jordan Jefferson was so bad in that game. They never crossed the 50. They never scored a touchdown in Alabama that season. Now, to be fair, Alabama only scored 1 touchdown on LSU that season in 2 games. But that'd be my 4th game. Number 3, the 2010 BCS National Championship, the 2009 season. That was Alabama versus Texas for the Colt McCoy game. Again, kind of a boring game until the end. Garrett Gilbert and them came back. Greg McElroy only threw 11 times, if I remember right. I think he had a crack rib from the SEC Championship game where he was the MVP against Brandon Spikes. It was Tim Tebow, and then that was that game. It kind of knocked them off, but he lingered in to the national championship game. I actually think Bama loses that game if Colt McCoy doesn't get injured. And I tell Bama fans that all the time, but always say I think if John Mechie and Jameson Williams don't get hurt in the SEC championship game and national championship game against Georgia, I think in 21, Bama beats Georgia again in the national title game. I mean, they were up with like 6 minutes left in the game without both of them. But I think, dude, you could tell Bama felt like a little hungover after like defeating the Florida beast that was. Like they trained all offseason in 2009 to go back and beat that Florida team. Remember, Florida was unanimous one. That was Bama's like, that's our why. That's why that's who we're prepping for offseason, to get a rematch with them in Atlanta. And I think Bama kind of like let loose a little bit after that. And Texas was a good football team that almost lost to Nebraska in the Big 12 title game. I think if Colt McCoy stays healthy, they win that game. Number 2, Alabama, Georgia, the 2018 national championship. We will always remember this. The 2017 season, Bama didn't even win the division. They didn't win the conference. Tua, 2nd and 26. I mean, it's a walk-off national championship game, guys. SEC on SEC, 2 places I've worked. I mean, that's up there, man. Like, professionally, since I've been out of college, no doubt about her, man. Just heartbreak if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, but man, that's probably Saban's worst national champion out of his teams. It's probably his worst national championship team, but that was number 2 for me. The number 1, I think this is number 1 for everybody. I think the 2006 national championship game, the 2005 season, USC, Texas, Vince Young late. I mean, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lindell White. I mean, everybody had dudes, man. Like Texas, I just mentioned it, Vince Young, Sergio Kindle, like, dude, that's an all-timer. I was in 10th grade. I was a sophomore in high school. I remember watching that game. Man, that was just a fun football game with a lot of talented football players and just went right down to the wires. That'd be number 1 for me to round out my top 5 most memorable national title games of my lifetime. But I told y'all, we had our own. The CEO, the owner of SEC Unfiltered. He's gladly joining us tonight on the last night of college football. We got the last 4 quarters. CP is here. We're going to talk heavy college basketball tonight. I mentioned it. Heavy college hoops midweek preview. Talk my power rankings. But CP, before we do, we have to get your top 5 most memorable, not best, memorable national championship games of your lifetime. So this is all subjective. Everybody's birth year is different. It's memorable, not best. Starting with 5, we're putting you, grab a bat, son. Game just stepped up. You got in here. We're putting you on the spot right here. Who's the 5th best game of Chris Phillips' lifetime? Or I should say most memorable.
Well, shoot, first things first, I appreciate you having me on. And this is actually a pretty monumental meeting of us here. This is the first time you and I have ever been on a show where I wasn't hosting it. So how about that? How about that? Love to see that.
Welcome to the show, bro.
I know. I'm honored to be on Dave Knows Ball, man. And again, appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's see. Top 5 for me. I'm going to rattle these off the dome. Number 5, I'm going to go with the Florida State Auburn national title. Jameis Winston. Yeah, down to the wire. FSU won that. Number 4, I'm realizing the first couple that come to mind are games the SEC lost, because I'm going to go Clemson beating Alabama, because me living in the Palmetto State, what that meant in the state of South Carolina, that one with Deshaun Watson, that team. Number 3,
CP, let me ask you, who were you cheering for that year?
Oh, Bama, for sure. I mean, in that game, yeah, for sure. I mean, I will never, ever in any
were you one of those guys where you cheer against Clemson no matter who they play?
Yeah, they could play the Taliban. I'm going to pull for the Taliban. Yeah. Number 3, I'm going to go with that LSU Bama game. That was what was they didn't let them cross the 50 or whatever.
That's the one I was just talking about. Number 3 for me, the 2011 season 12 national title game.
And that's a game that I'm pretty sure, talking to LSU folks, like, they still haven't gotten over that when it comes to their hatred for Alabama. That was like, it took it to the next level.
CP, I don't know if you were in the waiting room yet, but I said it. That was the game that started the ball to get Les Miles fired in 2016. Like, I think that was the first game where people were like, I worked for the guy at Kansas. I think it was the first game. I think that was the first game LSU fans, and like, we should go ask our buddy at Are You Serious Sports, Blake Ruffino. And I think he would say yes, where it was like, dude, you didn't change the game plan at all. You brought the same game plan, and it did nothing, and they just stopped. He's like, man, it's like, it wasn't like we won the first game because we were great offensively. We scored 9 points. Like, we could have made some adjustments offensively. And I think some of those questions were fair. Like, why didn't they bring Jared? I mean, remember the first game, they kept pulling him in and out. I remember Lee started it. He wasn't great, and Jefferson kind of bailed him out. But, man, he just rode the Jefferson train.
Number 2, Dave, I'm going to go – it's interesting where my brain is going. You would just think it's all SEC. But number 2, I'm going the Fiesta Bowl in 2003, Ohio State, Miami, Maurice Clarett, 31-24. Ohio State beat Miami in 2 overtimes. I think, wasn't that the end of the game where they thought it was a PI, but they called it incomplete? Or it was a PI, and they got another
Remember,
play.
They called it late. It was almost like Miami was celebrating in the end zone.
Yeah,
I called ready. That was my number 2. No, sorry, that was my number 5. That was my number 5.
Yeah, that one just memorable as a kid. Like, I'll tell you this, man, as a kid, Maurice Clarett was like one of the first college football players, I think, that made me fall in love with college football. I'll never forget getting that Sports Illustrated. I think it was a Sports Illustrated that had the poster of Maurice Clarett that you could pull out. That was always like something really cool. You get that poster that would come out of the middle of the magazine. I think that was a Sports Illustrated. And then number 1, to your point, man, it's that Texas USC game. I'll never forget this. So that game, that was the 2006 national title. I was 15 years old. So like, I couldn't watch TV past 9 or 10 o'clock, whatever. That game's on late. I am literally, I'm going to sound so old here, but I had an old cassette player thing that had a radio on it as well. I listened to that game on ESPN radio, the fourth quarter. So I didn't watch that fourth quarter live. I listened on radio. But that is that's the first national title I really, I mean, that's the best. I mean, that
remember who was calling it on the radio?
I forget who was calling it, to be honest with you. I don't think they had Keith Jackson's call, although I feel like that's right. I don't know. They may have had Keith Jackson's call, but either way, that's easily the most memorable, man. Like, I feel like if you ask anybody the most memorable national championship, Dave, unless it's like you're a Georgia fan and obviously the title a few years ago, I mean, that's going to make sense. But just
objective
college football fan, if you were alive for it and remember the game, that's like the best national title in
like you said, history. CP. I think if you polled,
I lost your audio for a second, Dave. Testing 1, 2. It may be me. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Now I got you. There we go.
No, I was saying, I think it's the hackers. So damn Ohio State fans. I was saying, I think if you polled 10 just random college football fans that were around and could remember that game, you're right. I think it'd almost be unanimous. That would be number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I just think when you think about the dramatics of the game, the stars of the game, I mean, it's got to be that game. It has to be, So I will say, though, honorable mention, I hate I left it out, that Georgia beating Alabama national title. That was the first
good finish.
Yeah, that was. I mean, to break the streak of 40 years or whatever it was. I mean, that was really, really memorable because it was for Georgia. It was just crazy, like to think how long it had been because they'd been such a great program, couldn't get over the hump under Mark Richt, always winning 10 games per year, but just couldn't win the Natty. And finally to get there and break through into Kirby Smart, get over to get over the Saban hump, if you will, is what it felt like. Obviously, in that time,
it's his only win against Alabama.
That was a memorable game. Very, very, and obviously no Georgia fan and no SEC fan probably will ever forget the pick to close it out, the pick six to seal it. That was, I mean, that, very memorable. But yeah, that 06 game and that Rose Bowl, easily the most memorable.
For people in our generation.
Yeah, easily.
CP, before we move on to basketball, give us a prediction tonight. I kind of set the tone for us here early. Ohio State, Notre Dame, folks, I mentioned it. Spread over with our buddies over at the FanDuel Sportsbook, -8.5 right now. The Buckeyes are favored. Point total, 45.5. CP, who you going with tonight?
What do they got the total out of? Is it 45? Is that what you said?
I said FanDuel has it 45.5.
45.5. Okay. I'm on Ohio State -9. I'm on over 45.5. Like you mentioned, FanDuel.com/SECU. Y'all definitely check them out. We love those guys. Great sports book, best in the land, and you can get a bonus right now as well. But yeah, give me the Buckeyes -9, Dave. I like the over. Score that comes to my mind sounds right. I'm going 33-20, Ohio State. I think it's a little higher scoring than folks are expecting. I think in a game like this with the emotions, I don't know. I just think the offenses shine for whatever reason. So Quinshon Judkins is a big night. I think both running backs going to have a big night, Judkins and Jeremiah Love, and I think obviously for Notre Dame, that running game is going to have to perform. But I know we're all bummed out. No SEC team. It sucks. But the way I look at it, Dave, is one last opportunity to sit and drink beer and watch college football until August. So it's what we're going to do. It is what it is. But, yeah, I got Ohio State. They just feel like the better team. What scares me, though, Dave, is I think about 80% of the money is on Ohio State anytime you got that many. But I don't know. I think this is one where the public's right. I really do. I think the public's right. The number is strange. You hate getting it at 9, but
yeah,
I don't know, man. I think there's a better chance of Ohio State winning this game in blowout fashion than Notre Dame winning straight up.
No, I'd agree. I took Ohio State, and I took Ohio State already with our buddies over at FanDuel, -8.5. So
you got the Buckeyes cover.
Okay. I actually bet it down, too, with FanDuel to 6.5 in another bet. So I'm loading up Ohio State. You can tell the confidence from talking about it earlier before Chris joined us. But CP, it's our first time initially, brother, before we put my power rankings.
The first time Dave knows ball. Yeah.
Before I put my power rankings, and I want you to nitpick them, tell me where you'd adjust a little bit. Just initial thoughts on the season so far. We're 5 conference games in. We got 13 left. Thoughts? How many teams you think are going to make the tournament in your opinion right now?
Yeah, I mean, initial thoughts, and I posed the question on social media just before I jumped on here, and we've had this conversation, Dave, off air, but it's going to be a fun convo. It's something fun to follow. Like, what's the more proud accomplishment, winning the SEC in basketball or winning the SEC in baseball? Because, we've always – football is obviously we've held this mantle of being the best conference in the land. And unfortunately this year, I think maybe debatable with the way that the conference did. I know obviously you've talked about that a lot. But we've always known baseball, that was really where the most depth was, and basketball was always kind of okay, was getting better. There's a real argument this year. I mean, that's the thing that jumps out. The league is just so insanely deep. I mean, it's there's a few at the bottom that are holding their own in the cellar, trying to fight their way out. South Carolina, LSU, Arkansas, maybe an Oklahoma, if you will. But, I mean, the league is just stacked. I mean, dude, Oklahoma they're still winless in conference play, right? Winless?
They got one win.
Got one.
South Carolina beat South Carolina.
That's right. It's only South Carolina and Arkansas the only winners. But, I mean, Oklahoma has one conference win, and they've got better than a 50% chance to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's how good their resume is. That's how deep the league is. So we're probably going to get 12 teams in, Dave. It does feel like somebody at the bottom that's got a decent resume, because they can't all get in. Somebody's probably going to get, somebody's going to be on the outside looking in, whether it's a Vandy, an Oklahoma. I'd say Texas is already on the outside, obviously right now, but Yeah, I was just looking at some numbers earlier, Dave, and I mean, I think there's 12 teams right now with a 70%. Let me pull this up. 70% or better chance to get into the NCAA tournament. Yeah, let's see. 4, 8, 11. There's 11 teams, 70% or better chance to get in. Then you got Texas at 64% chance at number 12 to get in. Oklahoma at a 54% chance to get in at number 13. And it drops all the way, Dave, at number 14, Arkansas, 9%. So realistically, I think the SEC is getting in 12. Who's going to be that 13th team outside probably looking in is going to be the question. But the league's just a straight-up gauntlet, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's my big takeaway. We're going to have a lot of fun when we get to SEC tournament, postseason, March Madness. And I'll tell you this, too. For those that I know there's a lot of people, football season officially ends tonight. You've still kind of been in football mode over the last few weeks, especially bowl season, playoffs. Listen, admittedly I'm someone that as recently as the last few weeks have started watching it closer and closer. The SEC's fun this year. Like, it is just every game, it seems like, is a blast. So many great players. The coaches are all electric factories. Again, there's money to be made with FanDuel. It's a great time, man. So we couldn't have picked a better first season for Day to be leading the charge on the basketball content and us really to be diving into the nitty-gritty of SEC basketball and then going on the road too. So it's yeah, man, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, CP, I'm going to lean 11. I think I'm going to get 11 teams.
11, okay.
I think it's going to end up beating each other. I think in that back end, we're going to end up beating each other. If you made me bet right now, if you said I would bet Oklahoma and Texas both do not make the tournament.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, they're both sitting there at 1-4. I mean,
and would you agree with this, CP? I think you'd say South Carolina, LSU, and Arkansas are dunsies right now.
Yeah. South Carolina, though, with a 0.1% chance per this. LSU 1.9.
As Lloyd Christmas once said, so you're saying there's a chance.
There is a chance. I will say this, though. So I said Vandy, 70.7% chance, and this is via Bart Torvik.
Bart Torvik.
Yeah, Bart Torvik. So Vandy is that number 12 team, 11 team, excuse me, 70.7% chance. The number 10 team, Dave, is Georgia, 92.8%. So the top 10 teams have at minimum a 92.8% chance to make the NCAA tournament. So 10 are essentially locked in. That's crazy when you think about it. That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. I think we get one more in, and I think it to be a battle between Georgia and Missouri for that. I say Vandy's in this, and Vandy could be a team that maybe collects some losses down the stretch. That's why I'm going to say 11, because I think the league's going to end up taking its toll on somebody, and it's just going to push somebody out. And I think I'm going to go 11 right now if I could bet it. See, I wonder what an over-under is.
Mizzou's at 99.5%. This is just feeding into the Mizzou disrespect that Mizzou fans already feel like we have.
Speaking of where CP is getting this from, where the disrespect's coming from, let me bring it on here. What he is talking about, the source of it right there.
Mizzou at 9, Dave. I mean, come on now. MIZ, where y'all at?
Well, so the main flat guys initially. All right, I think we're all pretty – CP, I want you to nitpick it. So we're going to start off from 16 going to 1. 16 South Carolina. Are you fine with that?
I got no issue with that. They're the worst team in the conference. I got no issue with that.
Their fellow 0-5 brethren, who is probably the most disappointing team in the sport right now. The number 15, Arkansas Razorbacks. Agree?
Yeah, I'm good with that again. Maybe have Arkansas and LSU played?
Yes, LSU beat them last week.
That's right. No, that is right. Yep, that is right.
I think that's when most people –
Funny enough, we'll get there in a moment, but keep the Hogs in mind for.
Yeah, I think last week's midweek loss in Baton Rouge is when everybody was Apollo Creed trainer throwing the towel.
Yeah, I mean I'll say this. I like your power ranks for the most part. The only thing I would nitpick, and we talked about this off air, Oklahoma, Texas, flip them.
No, that's definitely fair.
Flip them. Chris Jans, come on, we had Chris Jans on. I guess you had Beard on too, though. But I mean, it's interesting because you and I talked about this, Dave. You can't take a football mindset into basketball. So a team, listen, and I love the Doors. Lot 2, stand up. Love it. The pandemonium at
Memorial Magic
was insane. But, just because you beat somebody one game doesn't actually make you the better team. Mississippi State and Ole Miss. A lot of pushback today. A lot of pushback. But it's a weird week. It's a weird week. It's a weird week. The Rebels, to your point, they might have the best win.
They have the best win in
at Alabama, but then they lose to their rival. Granted, I'll tell you this, though. If State goes into Oxford and beats them, they have to flip.
For sure.
You have to flip.
If State brings out the brooms and sweeps them this year,
got to flip.
I'll be the first to go put up. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. We're 6 and 7.
Well, see,
I think we're all a little bit prisoners of the moment. I get it. It was an overtime loss. And to be fair, State had a chance to they were essentially really controlling the first 30 minutes of the game. I think that's very fair if you go back and watch it as well. That's what happened. But at the end of the day, we're going to go penalize Ole Miss that much for going 1-1 in that week of at Alabama, at Mississippi State, and they won one of them against their first top 5 road victory ever. Best win of any SEC team, non-conference or conference play so far this season. And then you go lose in overtime to your rival where you could have probably just packed it a little bit. But you know what? We got the biggest road win in program history, boys. We're fine. We're 1-1. And they gutted it out. So I'm not going to hurt them from that perspective. So that would be why I argue the Rebs 6 over Mississippi.
I don't have – here's the thing with these power rankings. I don't have much of an issue with much because this league is shown on any given night. Anybody can beat it. 16 almost beat 1 just within the last week or so, 2 weeks. South Carolina almost beat Auburn.
Think about it. Just Saturday, 11 beat
Georgia
5.
almost beat Auburn.
Yeah.
Which credit to Auburn.
Yeah.
They're getting
South Carolina could have won back-to-back games technically if they would have beat Auburn, and they could have beat Vandy. They were in that game late in Memorial.
Yeah. I will say this. I'm not going to go as far as one of our other buddies out there and say that Bama's a fraud. I'm not saying it. I think to call them a fraud is if you don't think they're as good as people are making them out to be, fine. But fraud's too far. I don't know if they're the second best team in the conference. I don't know. I just
think is
I don't know. It might. Here's the thing. I was ready to put Tennessee there, but you lose to Vandy. So, what are you going to do?
19 out of the
top 25
lost this past week. 1-1.
At this point, though, Dave, I would argue, you don't want to go 1-1 every week, but this basketball season kind of reminds me of what we say in baseball. Win your home series and then just don't get swept on the road.
Well, CP, I always break it into this. It's an 18-game conference schedule. And again, I was not good at math at all, but any of us can break this math down. You break it up into six 3-game series, in my opinion, in your schedule. Just go 3 in a row. It's if I can go 2-1 and get to 12-6.
Well, that'd be a great record this year. 12-6 would be a
12-6. You're probably finishing in the top 4.
Yeah, what's going to win the league this year? 14.
I think I was talking to Mike Giddens today on the War Report, as you know him. Me and him were talking what Auburn's record would be, because I think Auburn's going to win the regular season right now, especially with Bama getting themselves in that.
They, to me, feel like clearly the best team.
But I was telling him, because you look at Auburn's schedule, I think I'd be – if you told me the over-under SEC conference schedule for Auburn is 3.5, I'd go under. I think 3 is a perfect number for Auburn. Because think about it. Their toughest road games are at Alabama, at Ole Miss, and at A&M and at Kentucky. I think they probably go 2-2 in those right now. So there's 2. Let's say they go 1-3. All right, there's 3 losses. I don't think they lose a home game. Alabama and Florida are good, but I still think Alabama and Florida aren't going to go win at Neville. So I'm thinking.
The hackers cut into Dave again. The hackers cut into Dave again.
No, I said I think Auburn's going to go win the league at 15-3.
Yeah, I like that. I think they're clearly the best team. They're going to drop a few, but no, I especially what they're doing without Janai Broome. But no, I like your power rankings. The league is incredibly difficult. It's almost like with these power rankings, it's kind of like you're putting them into tiers. I think you're putting them more so into tiers. We can nitpick and drive ourselves batty trying to get the exact right. The bottom line is there really is no right or wrong answer here. And it'll all sort itself out on the floor. I think that's fair to say. It's all going to sort itself out.
I think it's very fair. I'm going to go 11 teams. Sounds like you're at 12 right now. Again, I just think it's going to beat. They're going to beat themselves up at some point. And here's the main part too, CP. I think for them to get to 12, I think you're going to have 2 out of 3 of Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Texas end up making it. I don't know. I just think at least
I think LSU, Arkansas, and South Carolina are dead.
Are done. Yeah.
I'll say this. I said 12, but unless Oklahoma or Texas heat up,
or Vandy. That's what I'm saying. You got to have 2 out of 3 of those teams heat up. And
I feel better about Vandy right now. Like Oklahoma and beyond in these power rankings, they don't feel like they're deserving right now. They don't feel like they're in the same. Like I would not put.
CP, I think all 3 of those teams are in the race to. All right, Texas has 1. Vanderbilt's sitting there at 3-2, so they need 5 more wins, and I think they're in. I think at 8-10 they would get in. I think Oklahoma. What are they, 1-4 right now? They need to get 8. They would get in for what they did in non-con. So they need 7 more wins. And Texas is the same, sitting there. Right? So, I mean, they need a couple more. They need 5, 6 more wins as well. So I think that's the goal. You got to get to 8-10. And I think the SEC is going to get respect. You get that 7-11 range, I think you're going to be playing with 5.
I mean, here's a fun hypothetical, Dave. If and I know it didn't happen. I mean, if Ole Miss would have beaten Mississippi State, where would they have been? I mean, they beat Alabama.
5-0 right now. And
they beat Alabama.
And think about it, CB, they got a massive one on Wednesday we'll preview here in a minute. That game between them and A&M's big.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, again, it's I know folks will get upset. That's totally fine, but that's what makes this league so crazy this year, man, is I feel like I'm pretty confident with Auburn at 1. Beyond that, man, I mean, you could really shuffle up. I'd say this, Dave, 2 through 8, you could shuffle up. Really, truly. I think after A&M, there's a little bit of a – but then, again, Mizzou is ranked. I mean, heck, I don't know.
I told our guy Mizzou Rambo today on Twitter, I'm not going to get first on the bus. I'm not going to be the first to jump off the boat into the water with Missouri right here. If they can go 2-1 in their next 3, I'll join the bus if there's any room left.
Yeah, the bandwagon's filling up fast.
But yep, CP, on the old power rankings, we went 16 through 1, but you know who is number 1 in the sports betting world, CP. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel takes the NFL playoffs to the next level because right now new customers can bet $5 and get the $300 in bonus bets if you win. That is $300, 300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in the select states for Kansas. An affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino or 18 years or older and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued a non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com. RG, call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. So CP, we went.
Attaboy, Dave. Hey, that disclaimer's a mouthful, baby. I know it is.
There we go. I need more.
Hey, we do have the bottom line. Bet responsibly, but make sure you bet. Make sure you bet.
I told him, it's probably a little too late to bet on the national championship game. But CP, we have
live bets. Listen, live betting. We support live betting with FanDuel too. Never too late.
Next, CP.
Yeah.
Let's pull up our picks.
Speaking of betting, let's get into some of these games.
Yeah, let me see if FanDuel's got any of our odds for tomorrow yet. But looking at it, CP, myself, me, and CP, this is the first of y'all seen it so far. It's the first that we haven't posted on social media yet. But these are the predictions for all 6 of midweek's action. Who is you got Auburn? You got Auburn and who am I missing there? Auburn and Oklahoma. Auburn and Oklahoma have the midweek buys. That's it.
They do. Okay.
Is that starting the midweek buys?
So we're starting midweek buys.
We do 2 teams each midweek.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so Auburn's only got 1 game this week. That's the college game day. Tennessee coming to town. The supposed rumor, Janai Broome going to give it a shot.
Wow.
It's almost a CP. I mentioned it today. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that seems like almost it's a must-have week for Tennessee, in my opinion, now with 2 conference losses already. Like, you lose 1 to Auburn head-to-head. That's the only game you play.
You gotta bounce back at home. I mean, that's a given. You have to bounce back at home. So
yeah, they got to beat State at home, and then they go to Auburn. Let's get into it real fast. Records heading into the midweek action. CP sitting at 25-15. I'm at 28.
Dude, I've caught up to you a little bit. You were crushing me after the first 10 games. So.
Yeah, Saturday wasn't kind to me. I mean, I started off with Kentucky beating Alabama, and then what was the other noon slate one? Oh, I picked the big upset. I picked Georgia over Auburn. Almost happened, but it didn't. Auburn ended up winning. Yeah. Y'all saw the thrill at the end. So let's get into it. Tomorrow night, starting with Tuesday's action, Vanderbilt at Alabama. Vanderbilt coming in off the big win against the Vols and Rick Barnes. Alabama coming back to Coleman Coliseum. They'll be here all week. They play LSU on Saturday and Coleman too. But after the disappointing loss in Coleman against Ole Miss, but they get the big win at Rupp, one of the better wins, I think, of the SEC season as well. I mean, we talked about it with Ole Miss beating Alabama, but I don't know, CP. I'm going to go Bama here. I saw Nate Oates today at his presser said practice was a little longer. He said it's my job not to let the Ole Miss thing happen again. So we had to get some things we started practice over. So I think they're going to be a little locked in. I think certainly Vanderbilt beating Tennessee has their attention. Like, I mean, there's no way you're overlooking this team. I think Alabama's going to handle business. Takes nothing away from what Mark Byington in his first year they've done at Vanderbilt, done a phenomenal job. I think one of the more surprising stats last week was not only Ole Miss out rebounding Alabama on Tuesday night, but Vanderbilt, who got out rebounded by Jackson State in that game, who was 0-13 the last I looked. Got out rebounded against Jackson State. Jackson State out rebounded Tennessee on Saturday. This team's somehow finding ways to win, just getting matchups that specific night that they're taking advantage of. I still think Bama wins this one, holds serve at home. If there's an easy week for Bama, as you know, Chris, there's not an easy week in this conference. It's this week for Bama at home. You got to get both of them. Vanderbilt at home, LSU at home on Saturday. If you want to contend for the SEC, you can't drop another one at home. So I think you hold serve. I think Bama starts off Tuesday night with a win.
Yeah, I think Vandy coming off the emotional win against Tennessee going into Coleman. And it's interesting, Dave, you know, my initial thought in this one, because of that, Alabama wins big. What do you know? Our friends over at FanDuel agree with me. They've got the spreads out, Dave, for the Tuesday night games. Alabama is a 12.5-point favorite in this game. The over-under 169.5. So they are expecting, listen, Bama hasn't guarded anybody this season, it seems. 169.5 the total. I might have to take Bama on 12.5, Dave. That feels like a lot, but I don't know that it is, man. Again, like you said, no disrespect to what Mark Byington and the boys are doing. They've done a phenomenal job, but I think Bama at home, laser focused, locked in, like you said, big week for them. And I think there could be a little bit of a hangover for the Doors. They're still kind of celebrating it down on Broadway, beating Rocky Top. So, yeah, I think Bama will lock in. Bama wins big, double digits. It'll be right at the number. FanDuel agrees with us. Again, Bama minus 12.5 in that game.
You're taking Bama 12.5 too, CP?
I'm probably going to take Bama to cover. Yeah, I think, like you said, sounds like Nate Oates and company, they're locked in. They need to build momentum. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are buying into kind of I don't want to say fool's gold, but they're going to buy in off the hype of beating Tennessee on the home floor. Vandy at Memorial and Vandy on the road, a little bit different. It's a little bit different beast, right? So I'm not saying Coleman is the best environment in college basketball, but I think Bama will be fired up for this one. I think they win big.
Next, CP, we got Mississippi State at Tennessee. Mississippi State coming off the overtime win. It was a 1-1 week for them. Lost to Auburn on the Plains, and on last Tuesday beat Ole Miss in overtime after Ole Miss came off that big win against Alabama. Tennessee comes off a win at home against Georgia, kind of an ugly first half, and they turned it around in the second half, and they took that tough loss in Memorial.
Dave, what do you think the spread in this one is? I'll give you a guess.
I cheated. 7.5.
Oh, you cheated. Okay. Yeah. We got Vols minus 7.5 on the home floor, over under 139.5.
I don't mean to sound like some people out there, but this is going to sound crazy, CP. It's going to sound crazy. It's going to sound like a cop-out, fence riders. And you know how I feel about fence riders. Make an opinion right on it. We're all wrong at times. I think Tennessee's going to win this game, but I think it's close. So give me Tennessee to win the game, but give me State to cover. I like the 7.5 here. I just think Tennessee's offensive ceiling concerns me. It does. I think they have a very high floor, lower ceiling than the Auburns, the Alabamas, Floridas, and Kentucky. Certainly, I've mentioned this to people right now, CP. Who do you trust more right now, the Kentucky defense or the Tennessee offense? Like, it's a little bit like, I don't know. I'd probably say the Kentucky defense because they're improving a little bit, because I think right now with Tennessee, their two go-to guys are Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler. And I just think that's dangerous to be playing with right now. You got to get Igor Milicic more involved. I don't know. I'm concerned about Tennessee's long-term projection. I think they're going to make the tournament. It's probably second-round weekend, but Final Four, really competing for the SEC regular season. I don't know, but I do think they win. I think it's a close one, though.
If I was going to go any way, Dave, with the spread, I'd go State plus 7.5 as well, but I'm going to stay away from that. This game screams under to me for some reason. I just think defensive. I think defense rules the night.
What do we say the point total was?
139.5. So I could see Tennessee winning like a 68-64 slugfest. This team goes, as like you said, Lanier and Ziegler go. Tennessee's going to protect the home floor. They're going to win on the home floor. I don't think they're going to come home, lose at Thompson-Boling. To your point, Dave, you got to have this one in a bounce-back effort after you lose to Vandy with Auburn awaiting, right? It feels like if you don't win this one and you go into Auburn, loses or 2 in a row, I don't know how much of a shot you've got. I mean, it's going to be tough to go into Neville either way. Tennessee's going to bounce back the right way, get the win. Lower scoring, slugfest kind of game. Love under 139.5, but I do like the ball straight up either way.
Yeah, so we're both with Tennessee on that one. Missouri at Texas, the last game of Tuesday night. Missouri coming off probably the most impressive week outside of Ole Miss's one win against Alabama as anybody. They went on the road and won at Florida. It's another big win in the league.
Big time upset. That
probably
was
a top 3 win of the season right now in the SEC. CP, I'll say it right now. I think Ole Miss beating Alabama's one. I would probably say Bama going to Rupp and winning this past Saturday in a really good college basketball games too. And I think Missouri going on the road to Gainesville and getting that win last Wednesday night was number 2, was number 3. And then they handled a very talented, just not playing well Arkansas team right now. They look discombobulated, but again, give Dennis Gates and them credit. I mean, like you mentioned, a 99% chance of making the tournament. Very impressive after
Missouri. Give Dennis Gates credit, to your point. Missouri is ranked a year after they went winless in conference play.
Yeah.
People wanted Dennis Gates gone last year, right? I mean, they were like, hey, you go 0-18 in SEC play, you should be fired de facto. And now he's got them ranked. So it just goes to show, man. You never know.
I think this game is going to define how tough this league is. And again, I'm not a big Texas fan. I'll be honest, I'm not a massive Rodney Terry fan a little bit.
Did you cheat, Dave, and look at the spread for this one?
No, I didn't.
What would you guess the spread is in this game?
Texas plus 2.
Dave, Texas minus 2.5.
Ooh. I'm saying this. I think this
minus
game,
2.5. Over under 147.5.
I think this game's going to be closer than people think, and I think people are like Missouri gets into the top 25 for the first time. This is the challenge Dennis Gates is going to have. He's like, hey guys, we've been kind of underlooked. I mean, I know we beat Kansas at home, but and we took Illinois down to the wire. They've gotten some SEC wins. Obviously,
Mizzou is always overlooked.
They are. Now it's the first
in this league, no matter the sport.
It's the first week he's going to have to sit there and get his team in and be like, hey, we aren't overlooked anymore, dude. We're in most people's top 25 except that Dave Shoemate clown out there. He has us 9th in the damn power rankings. So maybe I'm all around their facility getting.
Dave, we can't hear you, Dave.
Am I good now?
Now we got you. Dude, you know what it was? It was the Mizzou fans. They're tired of hearing that clown Dave Shoemate.
But no, I was saying this game's going to define the league because I think this is going to be a big challenge for Dennis Gates. Their first time they're ranked. People are going to be talking about them. But Texas still has 2 big-time scorers. And Trey Johnson, who we know, that's kind of their guide the foundation. They ride the true freshman. Arthur Kaluma in the front court can score. It's one of those two. Jordan Pope has helped a little bit. But at home, at the Mood, bless the Mood, as our guy Matthew McConaughey would say, friend of the show. I don't know. I just think this is going to be a tough road game. I think we're going to sit here and be like, yeah, if that game went at home, Missouri probably pulls this out. I just think Texas at home, this is their big win. They just got to get their big win. Again, I don't think Texas is going to make the tournament. I don't think they have any flow on offense. I just think tomorrow night is going to be their night. I just think they get a big win against a Missouri team that's going to come in fat and happy a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm glad to be wrong. But like I've mentioned to the Missouri fans on social media, go 2-1 in your next three. Go 2-1 in your next three. And their next three are, and I'll be hopping on Texas on the road as we're talking about, Ole Miss at home and at Mississippi State. If you could beat Texas on the road, split the two Mississippi schools, save me a seat on that bandwagon, boys. Save me a seat on that one. But I think Texas at the Mood gets it done tomorrow night.
I'm already on the bandwagon, Dave, because I'm going Mizzou straight up. I love the +2.5.
You're taking Bears place in basketball.
Hey, +106 on the money line. And I guess you'd be on Texas -2.5, right? You got to.
Yeah,
you got to.
Sprinkling a little money line in.
Yeah, a little +106.
Gatesy and the boys.
I'll plus the 106. Hit the money line on Mizzou, man. I think Dennis Gates. I'm buying in, man. You stop Trey Johnson. You stop Texas. I talked to our good friend Keenan Womack, Texas Sports Unfiltered, breaking down the horns, a convo that'll drop a little bit later. They are not very optimistic, Dave. They're going to get this thing rolling anytime soon. I like the vibes right now in Como, man. Very easy to overlook them. I think Mizzou is getting disrespected with this spread. I think they're going to win it straight up.
That's our only disagreement, not spoiling it for you guys, but as you can obviously see, it's our only disagreement going into the midweek action. But next, Florida at South Carolina.
This is the start of the Wednesday games, by the way.
Wednesday night's games right here.
We unfortunately don't have spreads for Wednesday yet. We will have those. FanDuel will have those tomorrow over on their site. So
at Colonial Life Arena. CP, I'll say this. I think both Florida and Alabama, those two teams we talked about, who is second in the league, I think they both probably feel like they left some meat on the bone last week, both going 1-1, dropping some two home games, Florida to Missouri, Bama to Ole Miss, that they probably feel like they should have had. Because, again, I think Auburn's so good this year, you can't afford to be losing games before you play them, much less at home. So I think Florida's very similar to Alabama's going to get their mind right, get checked. And, again, Texas came out firing against Florida on Saturday after the loss to Missouri, but Florida turned it around, took control. I mean, as me and you talk about, South Carolina is not a bad basketball team, but definitely below average. Be interesting to see where they finished in the ACC this year. But I don't know, Florida's just a better basketball team. I love what they got at the 3-guard spot. I think Alex Condon in the front court and them do a phenomenal job too. So I think Florida, Todd Golden, and them get a midweek bounce back win.
Yeah, I'm not going to be totally shocked, Dave, if South Carolina, I'll say if and when they pull one of these rabbits out of their hat and pull one of these big upsets. They've been close a few times. It's hard to pick it until we see it, though. I mean, I think that they go as Colin Murray Boyles goes, and I think Florida's got plenty of physicality to take him out and have their way with the Gamecocks. So I think Florida wins. I think this spread, Dave, you tell me if I'm wrong, this spread's probably going to be around anywhere from 8.5 to 10.5. Florida favored. I was
going to say 9.5. Yeah,
anywhere in there. I think Florida could very easily run away with this.
I don't think it'll get up to that Bama Vandy line because this is on the road.
On the road, but yeah, and you have to start questioning though, Dave. What's the crowd going to be like at Colonial Life Arena? We know that
correct.
Most SEC fan bases are such where if you don't have a product at some point, apathy sets in, you check out. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but anyways. Florida wins. This is a pretty easy pick. Don't overthink this one. Gators go on the road, get the dub.
Also on Wednesday night, like Chris said, though, our buddies at FanDuel have not released a line, but they will tomorrow. Texas A&M heads to the Pavilion. Can Ole Miss get another big midweek?
We're both going against Beard in the
dude. I don't know. This is the one where it's a coin flip to me. I don't know. This just feels like this. A&M's been without Wade Taylor for about a week and a half, and we're all kind of like in the power rankings, dude. I'll be honest with you. I struggled to rank them a little. And it's kind of like
because healthy, they're undefeated.
Correct. And it's kind of like
healthy, undefeated.
Yeah, they barely beat Oklahoma on the road, lost to Bama, lost at Kentucky. Like losing to Bama and at Kentucky aren't bad losses. So it's kind of like, all right, I think they've collected 2 conference losses. And let's be honest, CP, they probably knew when they set him with that groin injury, they're probably, look, this probably knocks us out of the regular season title race. Because again, I think Auburn and I think even like Alabama and Florida aren't going to mount a ton of losses. So you better keep winning as you can, especially Auburn when I'm really talking about that. So I think they kind of accepted that. But every year he gets some big road win, Buzz Williams. And he already kind of did this year. I kind of attribute their win against Purdue and Indianapolis as a big road win. I mean, that was a predominantly Purdue crowd in Indy, but that was a big win. I think they get it done in a very, very, very close game. And I think this is the biggest game of the midweek action so far.
Yeah, I'm taking A&M too. I don't know, man. I'm to your point. I like the Aggies to go in there. I think Ole Miss, coming off of a really, really tough loss at the Hump. Well, Mississippi State, that loss beat them twice. You wouldn't think so. This is the one I feel, even though our next game, this is still the game I think I probably feel the least confident about of all the midweek games. Because I love what Chris Beard has done in Oxford, man. He's put together one hell of a team, but I think people are kind of snoozing on A&M a little bit. I don't feel like we've been paying a lot of attention to them. So
this is a major strength versus weakness. And I say this, if you only watched Ole Miss against Alabama, you would think I'm stupid. But Ole Miss is not a great rebounding team. They're the second smallest team in the league from a height perspective, not from a weight perspective, just from a height perspective. And A&M and Alabama are the two best offensive rebounding teams. And A&M makes a living out of it. It's either the Zurich Phelps show or the Wade Taylor show now, and he's healthy, and they rebound off their misses, and that's where they get their points. So, I mean, if Ole Miss can't rebound, I don't know. I think last Tuesday against Alabama was an anomaly from that perspective and just an exception to the rule. That's where I think A&M is going to make their bread in the pavilion tomorrow night and get the win.
Yeah. We're not going to be very popular in Oxford for this pick. That's for sure.
Hey, I put them at 6 this week in the power rankings. They should be satisfied with me down on the square.
You can't have it all, boys. You can't have it all, Rev.
CP, here's another game people may disagree with us. On Wednesday night to cap us off, Georgia
this one's wild that we're going
at Arkansas, at Bud Walton, 0-5 Arkansas, playing 3-2 Georgia. Why did we both go Arkansas? I just think at some point they win a game, and I've done this 3 times now, and I'm not learning my lesson. I did it against Florida that Saturday at home. I was like, man, they're going to put it together here. Too much talent. All right, at LSU, they can't lose at LSU, right? Like, come on, they took an L. I mean, they took an L in all 5 Dude, if they didn't beat Michigan in non-con, they would have no win, nothing to write home about. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. And I'll be interested to see what this line is. It comes out tomorrow from our buddies at FanDuel. But I'm going to go Arkansas. This is a gut feel. There's really no reasoning. Nothing tells me they win this game. But here I am picking them.
I mean, Dave, I'm right there with you. I'm going Hogs as well. And I was for sure you were going to go Georgia and that I was going to be the bold one and kind of the out there pick. But and, again, it's funny enough. I had a conversation with one of our good friends, John Neighbors of Inside Arkansas, and talked to him specifically about Hogs basketball and asked him, Dave, I said, what's the reason for optimism, right? What do you feel like they're going to pull it together? Give me a reason. Said there is none. So, I didn't listen to him, obviously. You just, to your point, you feel like this team isn't great, but with the talent they have, and they've got one of the best coaches in the game in John Calipari, they got to win one at some point. I mean, they're not going to go winless, right? Like, I like Georgia. I like Georgia a lot, but it's hard to win on the road in this.
And a lot of Georgia's best players it's youthful. Asen Newell, Silas Demery, Blue Kane. They're youthful. Taking that on the road now. Will the crowd be hostile? I don't know. I would lean towards no.
I'll tell you this, Dave. I will feel, and this might sound no duh, but if Arkansas is favored, to me, that's going to say they know something. I'll tell you that.
It's going to be very similar to the Texas-Missouri line.
I bet you it comes out Arkansas like -1.5. I don't know. I
think it'll be very similar to
I have this
Texas.
weird feeling. I think Vegas will feel the same way. It's like, all right, they've got to get one eventually. This one's pretty gettable, but I mean, all due respect, man, you go lose in Baton Rouge. I don't really know at this point. So, yeah, they need it. I mean, Arkansas desperately needs it. Nobody needs good news more than the Hogs. So we'll see if they get it. I mean, you and I both going with the Hogs is crazy work.
So there you have it this week right now. CP sitting at 25-15. I am 26-12. We agree on every game except one. So
don't let me get Mizzou now. Don't let me get
right.
Mizzou.
That'll be a big
pick up a game on you. Don't let me do it.
Then we both got Alabama beating Vandy on Tuesday night. We both have Tennessee in a close one over Mississippi State in the Tommy Bowl. Then we got Missouri. This is the differential right here. He's got Missouri hanging on strong after entering the top 25 this week in Austin at the Moody Center. I have Texas holding serve at home. Going to Wednesday night's action. Me and CP both think Florida get the job done in Columbia. We both think A&M goes on the road and gets a big win, a real Buzz Williams signature win, dominating on the boards. And then for some reason, we keep calling the Hogs here, boys. Maybe sometime if we keep betting red, maybe on the the roulette table, maybe it'll hit at some point. You know what? I mean, odds are we're legitimately gambling, and I'm with you, CP. I'm interested to see what that line opens up tomorrow night with our buddies over at FanDuel.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It's again midweek slate's electric. Auburn and Oklahoma having off, and man, I'd be a little salty if I was a Tennessee fan. Auburn gets to rest up before we come to town. I don't know that.
It's not like you get an easy matchup.
Yeah, that I don't know that. I don't know how I'd feel about that. So
no,
but yeah, it'll deliver, man. Listen, that's the thing. This midweek slate, they've all delivered. It'll be a blast. So looking forward to it.
Well, CP, I appreciate you joining us tonight, brother. I appreciate you taking the time. I need to go check out the national championship game, folks. CP, before I do our final advertisement sponsor, anything to add to close out the episode?
Man, the only thing I'll say is you're doing an incredible job, Dave. I appreciate you, everything you do. Dave Knows Ball has been a huge success, all the content, everything you've done. And I mentioned this at the turn of the year, but it's been great working with you, Cole, the entire team, and not only building relationship professionally, but personally, and calling you guys some of my best friends. So you're doing a great job. All those that tune in, man, we appreciate each and every single one of you. And, yeah, man, look forward to seeing y'all on the road. Dave and I will be at some basketball venues very, very soon. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing it next week or so. We got to get some affairs in order, but it's going to be happening by end of month, and we're going to start hitting some of these venues. And, yeah, we'll see y'all on the road soon. So, Dave, I appreciate you having me on, man. Always good, always great stuff. And, yeah, we'll talk soon.
CP, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man, we'll talk later.
Later, brother. Guys, Chris Phillips, owner, CEO of the SEC Unfiltered channel, join us. Break down a little midweek basketball action. Again, a lot of this is going to turn into basketball now. Obviously, transfer portal stuff. But we got a lot going on here, the SEC Unfiltered channel. We just signed on with our title sponsor, FanDuel. Remember, this episode of Dave Knows Ball is brought to you by our buddies over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Guys, we talked about a lot. Today. Talked about potential Jim Knowles coaching his last game right now for the Buckeyes to go join Brent Venables and the boys. Norman, phenomenal coaching offseason upgrades for Brent Venables and them. It tells me I think he may have 2 years. It gives me a little more confidence. We gave my most memorable college football national championship games of my lifetime, going back to 1989. We got Chris Phillips on here to review pick holes in my SEC basketball power rankings. We previewed the midweek action, guys. We just went over an hour, man. We're over 100. We're at 67 minutes, guys. And I appreciate every one of you. But, guys, we're doing phenomenal things at the SEC Unfiltered channel. Go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're doing college basketball previews. We're doing college basketball live reviews on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday nights. We got live shows, Dave Knows Ball, and we got Sunday Fun Day. Cole Thompson, the Bear over there, taking that over on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, I do believe. We got transfer portal grades coming out. Myself and Cole Thompson are going to record an Amari Nye Black one on Texas A&M, getting him from Texas. We got tons of things coming at you from the SEC Unfiltered channel. It is the best SEC entity for football, men's basketball, and baseball across the board, guys. And as we get closer to baseball season here in a couple weeks, Harrison Fan and Chris Phillips will carry you on. So across the board, guys, anything, all things SEC, this is the place to go. And remember, the road to 20,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, folks. Let's go. Let's go get that numbers up. There's 1,000 of you in here right now. I know not all 1,000 of you are subscribed. So go get in there, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, as we posted on here earlier, guys. But again, for your host, Dave Shoemate, appreciate you bringing this, guys. Appreciate bringing this to you guys. If I don't see you tomorrow night on Tuesday and Wednesday night midweek basketball reactions, I will see you on Thursday night of Dave Knows Ball. You have a phenomenal rest of your week.